You probably think luxury requires a power grid, air conditioning, refrigeration, a hot shower on demand. Turns out the ancient elite figured out most of that 2,000 years before anyone plugged anything in. They just used an obscene amount of unpaid labor to do it. Let's talk about how the richest people in the ancient world stayed cool, warm, sweet-smelling, and dressed like walking bank vaults, using nothing but engineering, geography, and other people's suffering. Start with heating, because Rome solved it embarrassingly well. Wealthy Roman villas and bathhouses used something called a hypocaust, a raised floor sitting on short brick pillars called pilae, with a furnace at one end constantly burning wood. Hot air and smoke got pulled underneath the floor, then up through hollow tiles built into the walls, called tubuli, before escaping through a chimney. The result? Warm floors, warm walls, and a room that felt heated from every surface at once. Which, if you've ever stood on a heated bathroom tile in a hotel and felt smug about it, congratulations. A Roman senator had that in his dining room in the year 100. The catch is what it took to run one. Someone had to keep that furnace fed constantly, which meant a non-stop supply of wood and a slave or servant whose entire job was tending a fire under someone else's floor, all day, every day. Heated floors weren't a feature. They were a flex. You had enough money to burn a small forest just so your feet wouldn't get cold. Now the opposite problem. How do you get ice in a place that regularly hits 40 degrees Celsius in the shade? Persia's answer was the Yakhchal, literally ice pit, and it's honestly one of the cleverest buildings in the ancient world. A yakhchal is a domed structure with walls up to 2 meters thick, made from a mortar called sarouj, sand, clay, egg whites, lime, goat hair, and ash. That's remarkably good at blocking heat transfer. Attached to it, shallow pools and tall wind-catching towers, called badgers, that funnel cool air down into the structure, while pushing warm air out. Here's the part that sounds fake, but isn't. Even in the desert, clear winter nights get cold enough that shallow water in those pools freezes solid, thanks to radiative cooling. Workers collected that ice, packed it into the underground chamber below the dome, and the building's design kept the interior 15 to 20 degrees cooler than outside, enough to keep that ice solid for months. Persian elites were eating chilled fruit and something suspiciously close to sorbet in the middle of summer, in the desert, around 400 BCE. No freezer, no electricity, just physics and forced labor to haul the ice. Rome had its own, cruder version, deep conical pits up to 50 feet deep, packed with snow hauled down from the mountains, insulated with straw and thatch. That stored snow was genuinely more expensive than wine at times. The wealthy would strain it through a cloth called a column nivarium directly into their wine to chill and filter it. Chilled wine wasn't a summer treat. It was a receipt. China had its own ice bureaucracy, literally. During the Zhou dynasty, the imperial court ran a government department called the Bingzheng, the ice administration, staffed by around 80 workers called lingren, whose entire job was cutting river ice every December and storing it in insulated underground vaults called lingyin. This wasn't a private luxury you could just buy. Ice storage was a state monopoly. If you wanted cold water in July, you needed the emperor's icemen to have done their job correctly 7 months earlier. Next, what the ancient rich wore to make sure everyone knew they were rich. In Rome, that meant Tyrian purple, a dye extracted from the mucus glands of a specific sea snail, the murex. The production process was disgusting and absurdly inefficient. It took roughly 250,000 snails to produce about an ounce of usable dye. By the time of Emperor Diocletian's price edict in 301 CE, a single pound of purple dye was priced at 150,000 denarii, about 3 pounds of gold. Earlier, in the 1st century, a pound of the stuff cost roughly half a Roman soldier's annual salary. This is why Roman sumptuary laws restricted purple to specific people. Senators got a purple stripe on their toga, and a full purple cloak trimmed in gold was reserved for the emperor alone. You couldn't just buy your way into wearing it, even if you had the money. Wearing purple you weren't entitled to could get you into real legal trouble. It wasn't a fashion choice. It was a government-enforced ranking system you wore on your body. Then there's ancient Egypt, which treated personal grooming as a full luxury industry. Wealthy Egyptians wore elaborate wigs, sometimes braided with gemstones, made from real human hair supplemented with wool or plant fiber for volume, partly for status, partly because a wig was easier to keep clean and lice-free than natural hair in the Egyptian heat. Perfume was its own status symbol, and the most prized blend was kaifi, a dense mix of frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon, cardamom, saffron, juniper, mint, and pine resin, worth enough that it functioned almost like a luxury currency across the Mediterranean. And kohl, the dark eyeliner you've seen on every Egyptian tomb painting, came in 2 tiers. Poor Egyptians got a basic stick of it. The wealthy kept theirs in ornately carved boxes made of precious materials, because apparently, even your eyeliner needed a display case. None of this is speculation dressed up as fact. It comes from a mix of archaeological excavation of actual Hypocaust ruins and yakhchal structures still standing in Iran today, Roman price edicts carved in stone, and first-hand accounts from writers like Pliny the Elder and Seneca, who both wrote about snow-chilled wine like it was a normal Tuesday for people who could afford it. Here's the uncomfortable thread running through literally everything in this video. None of it worked without a permanent staff of people whose entire existence was making one person comfortable. Someone fed the Hypocaust fire non-stop. Someone hauled snow down a mountain by hand. Someone hand-collected 250,000 snails to dye one toga stripe. The ancient rich weren't more resourceful than us. They had unlimited access to other people's labor, which is a technology in its own right, just a considerably darker one than a heat pump. The genuinely funny part is how much of it maps onto modern luxury almost exactly. Heated floors are still a premium home feature. Chilled drinks on demand used to require an ice bureaucracy. Now it's a button on your fridge door. And smelling expensive is still, 2,000 years later, a thing rich people pay absurd money to signal. We just automated the parts that used to require a small army.
Make sure to subscribe for more epic content. And click that bell icon too.